there, everyone, and welcome back to this wonderful channel. I am your host, Reginald the Eternal, and today we have a couple very special items on the docket here today. First of all, you may notice that this camera is askew, which may make you very uncomfortable. And I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but I don't really care, so move on with that. And okay, so for the first item, we have this shelf thing that I've made it myself, and as you can see, there's this wonderful log that I've carved that whenever I get tired, I just sort of put myself on there. Either way, let's go out to the next item. So today we have something a little less serious than our previous installment, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that it was apparently utter dog shit. So we're just gonna play around this time, have a little fun, and I think I'm gonna tell you all the stuff about the Skibidi toilet series. Well, the Skibidi toilet theory thing that I made that I discontinued because of time, and I'll just tell it to you guys now. So I guess that's what we're going to be doing right now. So I'm gonna quickly pull out the whiteboard like I usually do. Give me one quick sec. Oh shoot, that's interesting. This whiteboard's telling you to subscribe, to hit that subscribe button. How crazy is that? Well, guess you better follow it. I mean, if some entity of some kind is written on that, they probably mean blood, so they probably won't like it if you don't follow their commands. So hit like button, comment something, hit a notification bell. Okay, no, I'm stretching. Alright, so let's talk about Skibidi Toilet. Alright, so all y'all know about Skibidi Toilet, and it's crazy internet sensation, but few of us ever thought to determine that there was a narrative behind it. Well, however, apparently matpat did, and now we have some sort of video going over it talking about how it's some sort of battle between actual traditional media and whatever, and coupled with YouTube poops or whatever. And I thought that was boring as heck. Shame on you, matpat. And so I'm going to propose my own theory, which is way more interesting, and I think you guys would like it a whole lot more. And so, here it is. Hold on, allow me to write it down. Here's the main theory I'm proposing. The creatures that we call Skibidi toilets are not what we think they are. Instead, you know what they are? They are biblical angels. No, I'm not insane. I mean, thank you very much for asking, but please take care to hear me out on this one. So, you see, you may believe that there are only one kind of angel, the also holy kind, or maybe two of them, considering the biblically accurate angels you sometimes see pictures of sometimes. But in reality, there are not one, there are not two types of angels, there are 9. And I'm going to give you a crash course on them right now, otherwise everything won't make as much sense. Alright, so as you can see from this incredibly descriptive diagram I've made, there are 9 types of angels, also known as choirs, which are just these squares here, and they are organized into 3 different tiers, which we will go over separately. So give me a second to write this in. Alright, so down at the bottom in Goofy tier, we have the 3 angels that are closest to us humans. Oh, did I say us humans? I meant you humans. I mean, sorry, I get mixed up. This mortal brain is often restricted with my own powers and stuff. I mean, it's a whole different story. So, at the very weakest type of angel, you have just normal, garden variety angels, And the normal angel's job is just usually to, is mainly, 2 things. The first one is delivering, sort of messages to us humans, oh, well, God's, gonna be hanging around and he's gonna, plant some goofy mushrooms. You should go and, check those out. And so, and they're also just sort of there to, remind you, hey, if you don't keep worshiping, God is not going to send those goofy mushrooms. So, in the second to smallest, you have archangels. And that's kind of weird, because you hear about archangels being all, powerful and stuff. That's just the way it goes. Archangels usually are, essentially, a more important version of regular angels. They, instead of, delivering, normal messages, yo, God is planting some magic mushrooms, they would be saying yo, God is planting some magic mushrooms, if you know what I mean, and in a random human lady, and it's gonna turn into Jesus Christ, that kind of thing. And so that's just sort of their job. And then in the most powerful of the Goofy tier, we have princes, Now, the job of like princes is they sort of like represent like different like cities or countries or kingdoms. So they're sort of like patron angels, I suppose, in a way. Like you could say that there's like, a prince of Israel, or like a prince of the Czech Republic, or maybe like a prince of St. Cloud, Florida, something along those lines. Alright, so that wraps up the goofy tier. Now we're going to move into the mid tier. To start off mid tier, in the smallest position, we have powers. Now, these are essentially just like soldiers. Now, I know this may sound weird, considering like, God is all powerful and holy and stuff, and he's just like, why would he need soldiers, even if he's like, such a peace-loving guy, you know what I'm saying? But like, those are like intended to be like sort of like, I guess, like the final soldiers, when all the demons come, and hey, this is written by Catholics, not me. I am Catholic, but we can just like push that into the road for now. Moving on. Alright, so for the second one, we have virtues, and these are just sort of like, they control like all the weather and stuff. Like, if it's like, gonna like have some freezing rain today, and your entire city is shut down because you usually don't get that kind of stuff, that's their fault, not climate change. Alright, and so for the most powerful, you have dominions. These are just sort of like, the mid-level, like, sort of managers, sort of, who are just like, ordering all the smaller angels around and stuff and telling them what to do. Like, more on, like, sort of behalf of God. Alright, so now for our final tier, we have the goat tier. Not to be confused with God tier, because that's higher up, but that's not what we're talking about today. So, for goat tier, all of these angels are just like, sort of, most of the time, pretty much all the time, are going to be in the presence of, like, good old thunder from up above, like God, most powerful being in creation, other than me, who can just, like, destroy your entire world in an instant. But, I don't really, like, I don't make the rules. I'm usually, like, more of a sideline type of guy, if you know what I mean. So here we have the 3 goat tier members. At the smallest and least powerful, which isn't saying much, are the thrones. Now, I'd say out of all the angels, they have like maybe like the dullest job. Their job is literally just to act like thrones. They like hold up God, and they are like, the entire job is to just be like, peaceful and submissive and stuff. Sure, a lot of boys around this generation wouldn't be too mad about that, but you aren't thrones, so I don't know, like keep to your own Discord chats or whatever. And also the thrones are like sort of like, whenever you see or like hear stuff about like biblically accurate angels, these are like, the thrones are like what you're talking about, like the weird sort of like bands with eyes and stuff. Those are thrones. And moving on, we have the cherubim, which like cherubs, and you may think of like cherubs as these little babies, but in this case, I think they're a little more, like, powerful and stuff. They're, like, the eternal, like, sort of remember people. They, like, sort of know all the, like, the knowledge of the universe and stuff. They're just pretty epic. Even I can't remember a whole lot of stuff, even though I am an eternal being. So, good for them. Good for them. Bully for them. So, finally, at the level closest to God, we have the seraphim. The seraphim are so close to God, in fact, that they're on fire. Their job mainly is just to like sort of sit there, receive God's love, like burn, and also like never like reveal their eyes or anything like that, which is weird. And they just sort of sing all the time, like, oh, God is epic and stuff. All the fun, goofy God Jesus show tunes, except like sung by like angels and stuff, which I guess like gives it its own kind of neat kick. But so that's like all it for like the 9 angelic classes, and I would like to now circle back around to thrones. Thrones, as you remember, are just like all super like peaceful and submissive and stuff. But what if they just kind of like don't want to be? It's happened before in other angelic classes. Like for example, a cherubim, like Satan was actually a cherubim before he decided to like send to Earth and like rule hell and all that. So, who says that the thrones couldn't start rebelling as well? Do you see where I'm going with this? Perhaps the Skibidi toilets in this case are just thrones. They seem to be capable of like incredibly great power. They can just grow and shrink at will. It's quite impressive, and they just sort of like hover off the ground. And other than like those spider Skibidi toilets later, they don't really seem to have legs, so they appear to be like floating just fine. And while that may sound like incredibly far-fetched, you never know, at least it's way more interesting than just like some sort of battle in between like the varied modes of film. I mean, we have way enough of those. So yeah, that's basically it, but you may be asking yourselves, oh, but like, what are the cameramen? And truthfully, I don't really know, nor do I care. I think they're just sort of there, they just exist. However, the TV men, I have reason to assume that they're like directly below the thrones in the angelic chart, because they are power, like, you know, eternal soldiers of God's army, which would make sense because they could just be angels sent down by God to like track down all the rogue thrones, you know? Look, I understand that this theory may be like, you know, a bit like rough around the edges, you know? Bit kind of, bit strange, a bit sort of quirky, you could say, but I believe in it. And I think you should too. And if you want to believe in other stuff like that, I'd say, like, you know, and just have like more based opinions like you've seen here, then, you know, you could mosey on over to the subscribe button, I suppose. But I mean, I don't even know why you do that. So no, I don't really know why I'd bother. I'm like, also, matpat, if you're watching this, you're great, but that was like really boring, so I had to mix it up, you know. So I'll see y'all later.